This video and its three companions compose a four-part series on basic bibliographical observation. The series aims to show you the fundamental techniques used in pursuing any form of bibliography or other study that takes books seriously as evidence of human activity. I will demonstrate these principles using material familiar to me, Anglophone, natural history, and poetry. But I believe you can adapt these techniques to the objects that interest you. I hope you do, and I hope you share your results with all of us. This video comes first and deals with evidence that is easy to notice in just one book and which can be studied successfully through careful note-taking. The second video deals with evidence that is harder to see and introduces a few basic tools. The third video deals with evidence that is hard to notice without looking at several books and introduces sustained attention through record keeping, collecting, and reading other people's work. This area excites even those just learning bibliographical observation, which is good because many hands make for light work. However, it depends on the previous two to do well. The fourth video deals with evidence that is easy to see in every book, but which turns out to be the hardest to notice as evidence. This evidence introduces more advanced approaches rather than a wholly basic technique. Now, let us talk about evidence that is easy to notice in just one book. Practiced readers know to disregard certain features of books while they read. These features do not represent the work or information they seek, but support auxiliary uses of the book, like citation, or form part of the book's history. Indeed, learning to read includes learning to ignore certain features. It would be distracting to read every page number in the page 15, middle of each sentence that the page spans. See what I mean? Yet, practiced readers still see and notice page numbers. Similarly, most practiced readers do not read indexes sequentially as part of the verbal text of a work. Practiced readers may not even know who wrote the index, but they know for modern books they're a separate sort of work to help with a specific task. Some people call these separate features bibliographical codes or paratexts, but these merely mean the features that a practiced reader sees but regards as not part of the main work. They don't ignore them, but disregard them when thinking about the main work. Depending on what you study, you will need to look at different disregarded features. For example, if you study the traditional printed book of China, you might be interested in the dimensions of the Shoukou, Kingabi, and Zhongfeng, or you might look at visible repairs to the wood blocks used to print the book. If you study PlayStation games as books or book-like, you may see loading screens, glitches, and controllers as features which a practiced player, that is the reader, ought to disregard. If you study early computer typeset books, you might need to seek out widows, orphans, and unsightly gaps, along with hyphenation irregularities. If you study 20th century paperbacks, you may look at battered type or plate marks, along with the marketing material on the covers and at the end of the book. The features that I mean here are the ones that a practiced reader of that type of text would see but rarely regard as useful to their reading. For example, these days, most readers recognize that page numbers occur on every page, in a sequence, typically without repetition. A repetition thus signals either a mistake of some sort or a special section of the book. Introductions might be numbered in Roman numerals. Newspapers may prefix a letter to a page number. Journals might continue the previous volume's numbering. Parallel text in two languages may use each number twice or not. A practiced reader could use these features to write references, identify a gap where something is missing, and many other things. However, when we turn to a page to discuss a passage, a practiced reader disregards the page number after using it to locate the passage. Only in unusual books or during bibliographical observation do the page numbers mean something that relates to the passage of verbal text. We turn to a page to discuss a passage. Seldom do we turn to a passage to discuss a page. Since any of us can see these numbers, however, these features can be studied by practiced readers of any sort. They don't need any special equipment, and the principal technique consists only of being patient with something that is normally disregarded. The best technique that I know of is simple: systematic observation and note-taking. That is, find all of those features and write down what they look like and where they occur. Let me demonstrate with something that's familiar to me, 18th century English poetry. But a warning, you do probably read something else, so you'll probably have to look for something else. If people actively read what you study, you can probably ask them, and if you read what you study, some reflection will probably tell you what to look at. For materials where no experienced readers can be found, studies of reading and production, whether in print, verbally reported, written, or something else, can help identify the features. An unknown rogue bookseller printed this copy of Samuel Butler's Hudibras on a European common press for Anglophone readers to be bound in the style of a codex, so it has instructions for readers and for binders, among many other features. The signature marks tell the person assembling the book where these pages go. That is, B goes before C, C before D, and so on. Practiced readers also knew this, but seldom had to use these signature marks, because the book also has page numbers. Yet, not every page, for example, page 76, has a page number or signature mark. Now, we can use the fundamental skill of patience to look at them all and write them down. For these notes, let's make a line stand in for a leaf of the book and write down any signatures or page numbers on either side. So, what can we see? Every 8 leaves, or 16 pages, the signing starts with a new letter. The recto, or right side, is always the page with a signature. Mostly, the first 4 signatures are numbered. Some numbers fall out of order or are missing. The first few pages don't have numbers, but that seems to be on purpose. Likewise, page 76 is skipped because the page is blank. Yet, where we expect pages 106, 107, 110, we have instead 108, 109, 112, which seems like a mistake. The signing points to one of the most core facts about codex books. They're made in large sheets, folded and sewn. The importance of this fact earns it a special name, format, the number of planned pages to a sheet. We call this book's format octavo, 8 pages to a side of a large sheet, folded, sewn, and cut. The page numbers can be out of order or missing because the signatures tell the binder what to do. Folding a large sheet of paper into several pages so effectively structures the codex that we have a standard notation for this. We write 8 with a superscript O for octavo, which means that the 8 sheets were printed to a side. 8. We write a superscript 8 to say there are 8 leaves. And we can turn the individual page numbers into a range with mistakes, like this. This formula further compresses like this. And you have what we call a collational paragraph that includes a collational formula in a pagination statement. Similar formulas can be written for other books, and it takes a little practice to learn how to do it. But collations and page numbers aren't the only thing you can learn about this way. Codices include press figures, catchwords, headlines, ornaments, and truly innumerable other things to look at. You can find these easily enough by looking at books and noticing, reading about how the book was made, or learning how the book was read. Looking at books with people also interested in learning, or who already know, can help you to learn more quickly. But even if you're alone, you can read and think. I think this technique should work for you, no matter what kind of book interests you, and whoever you might be. The key is merely to notice the features, write them down in a systematic way, look for patterns, and try to decide what they mean.